Alright, welcome back to a new video. I'm gonna be talking about the top brawlers and skirmishers for heavy mechs. Now I know that this video is kind of late. It's because I've been really busy with school and I've been falling really sick lately, so I haven't had the energy or time to make this video. But here I am right now, and let's just get straight into the top brawlers and skirmishers after the skill tree for the heavy mech class. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the Mad Dog. Mad Dog is pretty much the same build now, but with 2 extra double heat sinks because of the wonderful armor node. The survivability skill tree, I can basically ditch more armor off my legs and fit in more heat sinks, which is what I've done effectively. The build is pretty much the same, like I said, except instead of 17 double heat sinks, I have 19, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 tons of ammo, which with the double ammo racking nodes adds up to 780 rounds. It's basically 8 tons of ammo like I used to have before. It's basically 1 less SRM salvo, which is perfectly fine. So onward to the steel mace for the Mad Dog. Because, okay, here's the thing with the Mad Dog. It kind of got absolutely wrecked by the steel tree in terms of its mobility. You need to spec into mobility so hard to get the Mad Dog feeling the same way that it used to before the skill tree. Which I don't really like that aspect of it. Like, the Mad Dog, after they gave it its agility, was a really powerful contender of being the best brawler in the game. Now you have to spec into mobility because without all these nodes, it is extremely sluggish. Like, without any of these, 108 torso turn rate feels pretty much. I haven't exactly tested it. I don't have concrete numbers. This is all anecdotal evidence. But without all of these nodes, right, like all these mobility nodes, it feels really sluggish and basically unplayable for me, so I had to invest into these. Take what you will from that, but yeah, that's basically how it is. So, firepower tree, I basically went for, well, ammo racking and as much cooldown as I could with the limited amount of node points that I had. So I went for ammo racking. Obviously I ignored missile spread because I value range over like 2.5% missile spread, and yeah, that's basically the goal. 24 points into that. Survivability, I basically went for all the easily accessible armor nodes. I used to go for structure, and then Odin told me, hey, you go to armor nodes, it's basically the same amount of health increase except it's armor, therefore it's better. Which is right, because it's armor, I can shave off more armor. And yeah, I managed to fit an extra heatsink. So that's that. And for mobility, this was an interesting one. I basically went for every torso speed node because yeah, I to get the torso twist feeling like its original levels, because 20% without the torso speed nodes, I think it turns like 90 degrees per second, which feels really slow for a Mad Dog. So the extra 20% makes it go 180 degrees per second and therefore a lot more playable. Also went into anchor turn and that stuff because the Mad Dog being able to make turns around tight corners is really good. It's part of the reason why you're able to escape and survive a lot easier, because you're able to turn those tight corners when you need to. Obviously nothing in the jump jet tree. Operation tree is pretty much the same as with every other mech. You invest 13 points to that with cool run and stuff like that. The auxiliary tree, I sort of went a bit more triad here. I went for double coolant and double artillery. You could say that I could ditch these 3 points and go into more firepower, but the thing is that like with these 3 points, and I'm not exactly space poor, I can gain a lot more value out of like 2 artilleries, 2 fully upgraded artilleries over, say, maybe an additional 1% cooldown or 1.5% heat gen. So that's the Mad Dog for you. I'll link everything down in the description below. The next mech I have in mind is actually the Orion VA and the Orion IIC A. Now for the Orion VA, this is not exactly like, I still wouldn't really recommend an Excel in Orion. It's not the smartest idea, but this is more of a fun mech that just spits out DPS because it gets base missile cooldown of 15%, which is really good, and it also gets missile heat gen, so that means that it's also really heat efficient even with all these heat sinks. And because of how armor is now compounded with the skill tree, it's a lot more excel safe, sort of. But yeah, I wouldn't exactly recommend this build if you're planning to play it seriously. But if you want to have some fun just spitting out DPS in a brawler, this is a really good build. I have 5 tons of SRM ammo and 1.5 tons of LB10 ammo, pretty much max armor, and then all the double heat sinks that you could fit in it. So for this one, I went a bit, well, I went for, I can't English today, holy shit. The cooldown notes, right? So I might actually need to reorganize this tree a bit. Yeah, I might actually do that. I don't know why I went the route that I did with the steel tree actually. Now that I think about it, I just did it. So single missile rattling does an extra half a ton of SRM ammo does help, because you do run out of SRM ammo in this thing very often with how fast the cooldown is, even with how low slung the SRM arms are. Went for all of the most of the possible cooldown nodes, cause this thing spits out DPS like I said and doesn't really produce that much heat. For survivability, I went for basically every, why did I go for skeletal density? This is a questionable decision, and I don't have an one of my main problems with the skill tree is that if I accidentally select the wrong node and I don't have XP for it, I have to find out which one. Yeah, this is a rant for another video, but in any case, yeah, I should have invested into more armor. Whoops. There's that. Basically maxed out all of the armor trees, taking structure nodes along the way. For mobility, I basically went for torso speed, so this thing can turn faster and therefore spread its damage a lot easier. So it turns at roughly 90 degrees per second, which isn't horrible. It's an Orion, so I didn't really expect it to turn that fast, but an additional 10% torso yaw speed is pretty useful. Operations, do I need to say more? It's the same standard operations tree of 8% cooldown. And then for auxiliary, I went for double 2 shot. Toss in a brawler, you want those 2 shots to basically speed up more DPS, so that's that. Now the Orion IIC A is pretty much the same thing as the Orion VA in terms of the skill tree. Just to let you guys know, I didn't figure this out until recently. This, okay, I'm gonna highlight it here. This part here is the CT. This entire part here is the left torso. Too many a time have I aimed at like the center part of the mech and it hit left torso, because I thought that was CT. No, the CT is on the right. So yeah, Orion IIC A's hitboxes are absolutely asinine, but with how much armor torques it gets, it's not too terrible now. So this is basically the build right here. Max size engine, 4 SM4s Ranimus, and then you have your LB20, yada yada yada. I might actually reallocate the ammo, I'm not too sure. We'll figure it out for another day. And we have 17 double heat sinks in total. That means that this mech is also pretty heat efficient. It's a lot better for brawler that compared to an Atlas, because 1, it's 75 tons, 2, it moves faster, and 3, it packs the same weapons payload. Gauntlet doesn't have the same amount of health, but yeah, it's more menacing to find an Orion IIC A with a full brawler build than an Atlas, because at least from an Atlas you can run away from it. The Orion can actually keep up because it does 77.8 kph, which is not that slow at all. So as for the skill tree, I went for double ammo rating for the missiles, because I only have 4 tons of ammo in that thing, not that much. So I wanted to have at least 5 tons of ammo for the quad SM6s, which is what I did. I didn't go for as many cooldown nodes, and I didn't go for many heat gen nodes. Like, a lot of these things might be a bit of personal preference, but this is what I did for the Orion IIC A. I haven't really tested it out that extensively, but I do know that it's really tanky. And if you receive support in this mech, you can eat a lot of damage while dishing out a lot of damage. The survivability tree is pretty much the same as the pretty much the same as the Orion VA. Nothing too different there. Mobility, same thing. I went for the torso speed to let it turn faster, sword and board a lot easier. Operations, standard fare, 8% cooldown. And then for the auxiliary tree, you get the double true shot, which I feel is pretty much mandatory in every single mech. The double true shot. Now, here's the thing. I would have recommended the SRM Timberwolf, but look at that torso turn rate. That torso turn rate is 70 degrees per second base. And because the Timberwolf S right torso is pretty much mandatory for this build, you get minus 10% torso yaw rate. So original torso yaw rate is probably about 75 degrees per second. Like, I don't know why the Timberwolf still has negative quirks. I am really angry about this. I basically gave up piloting Timberwolves ever since the Steel Tree and the engine decouplings, because they are so clunky. They can't do anything well anymore. The Timberwolf, they finally killed the Timberwolf. For some reason, PGI still thinks that the Timberwolf is tier 1. It's the strongest heavy in the game, when by right it's actually the Night Gear. But that's a rant for another video. Like, I'm still really pissed that they killed off my Timberwolf. This was one of my favorite brawlers, but now it's dead. So the Timberwolf, the Splat Timberwolf, is actually not on the recommendation list. I would not recommend piloting this thing at all. It's just like, it's too paper, it's too clunky, and whatever it can do, the MECHS does better for 15 tons less, and it's a lot more agile. Granted, the MECHS has no jump jets, but the Splat Timberwolf is basically dead. There is no reason to pilot it. In fact, I'd rather bring the Splat Summoner over the Splat Timberwolf. Part of the reason is because of how tanky the Summoner has been with the Steel Tree. I mean, look at that CT structure. Granted, the side torso structure is non-existent. In fact, why doesn't the PGI, you never cease to amaze me. For some reason, okay, I didn't realize this myself until just now. They decided that not putting structure in the arms is a good idea, even though the arms in the Summoner fall off really easily. But in any case, if you want another decent and agile brawler, the Splat Summoner is actually pretty decent. I recommend it to a degree. It's still like the SRM spread, because the SRMs are split between the arms. The SRM spread's really bad, but it's really agile, and it does still do like a 60 alpha. It's a decent mech, and it does the job done. The Summoner is not as agile as it used to be, but it's still really playable after the engine decoupling and the Steel Tree. So this is the Steel Tree that I've gone for. I basically went for, I'm not sure why I went for the heat gen notes when I should have gone for the cooldown notes. I might need to tinker with this a bit more. So what I did was obviously the downward ammo rattling, so to fit more heat sinks. This thing doesn't really run hot at all. It's cooler than the Mad Dog, even though it has less heat sinks, but that's because it has one less missile launcher. So there's that. Survivability, I went for all of the easily accessible. You did not see that misallocated point. Hang on. Whoops. I basically went for all of the easily accessible structure nodes. Mobility, I went for a bit of Heartbreak and Anchor Turn. I wanted a bit more mobility in my Summoner. I like having more XL cell on this thing, it feels really good. Personal preference though, some people have said that the Summoner is actually agile enough that you don't need the mobility tree, which I do agree, but to a certain extent, but I just like the added mobility in my Summoner, so that's why I invested a bit more into the mobility. Operations, standard fare, and for auxiliary, I went for double two-shot, double artillery, because I had points to spare, didn't know where to put them, so I put them into double two-shot, double artillery. Now, another thing to note about the Summoner, besides it being, it doesn't pack as hard of a punch as the Mad Dog, and like I said, the SRM convergence between the arms really bad, the SRMs is really low mounted, the arms fall off really easily, stuff like that, so you have to keep all of that in mind. But other than that, it's actually a pretty decent brawler, and it does tank a lot of damage, especially if you force the enemy to shoot at your legs, especially now since your legs basically have 220 health, so your legs aren't gonna fall off that easily. So, but yeah, that is pretty much the list of all of the good. Oh wait, I forgot to recommend another one. The SplatCat is actually fairly playable now, even though the arms fall off. Like, I was about to say that all of the brawlers I recommended are clan. No, the SplatCat's actually not that bad now. It's still a lot hotter than the SplatDog, but it has jump jets and it has IS SRMs. And you're saying, Juju, you're probably saying, Juju, what's the advantage of IS SRMs over clan SRMs, considering that clan SRMs are half the weight of IS SRMs? Well, IS SRMs have more damage, so it has like 5-ish more alpha than the SplatDog, and they also have tighter spread. That means they don't spread as much. Now, this is the build I have thus far. Teleports don't really get legged, even with all the jump jets, so that's why I only have 41 leg armor. And this is pretty much the standard SplatCat build right now. 6 tons of ammo. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 tons of ammo. With also the double ammo racking, it basically adds up to 720 rounds, which is enough for a SplatCat. Now, if we go into the skill tree here, went for double missile rattling, and in this case I had to invest in a fair bit of the heat gen and cooldown, because it does not have the heat sinks to cool off. You really need that heat gen, and you get the cooldown as well. I think the Catapult A1 also lost its missile heat gen quirk, because for some reason PGI thought catapults were OP. Thanks, man. And for survivability, since the teleport gets albeit very little structure quirks, it does compound, so you want to go for the additional skeletal density, more structure. And then I went for the teleport. I went for a mix of kinetic burst, heartbreak, torso. Don't really need the torso your range, but I wanted the torso your speed, and as such, yeah. So the teleport turns at like 197 degrees per second, which isn't too slow but isn't too fast either. It feels like a normal catapult. I'm used to teleports turning this fast, so it's perfectly fine. So there we have that. Operations tree is basically standard fare. Look at it, it's normal. Auxiliary, you'd go into double coolant. Nothing different there. Pretty much all your brawlers you want to have double cool shot, because they're really important. Like, the last thing you want is to overheat during a brawl. And another thing is that one coolant is basically 1 or 2 more alphas, and in a SplatCat, 1 or 2 more alphas is 78 damage to, I can't math, hang on, to 156 more damage dealt to the enemy, which is a lot. So there we go. Those are all of the top brawlers slash skirmishers. There aren't really any good skirmishing heroes IMO. Most of them are just full-on hard engaged brawlers. So that's my list. That's the list I have right now. I'm still really bummed out that the Timberwolf is no longer relevant in this meta. I hope they buff its mobility and remove its negative mobility quirks, because it really doesn't need it right now. Because the main selling point of the Timberwolf was its weapons ability to pack a gigantic weapons payload while still being heavily armored and really mobile. Now, because it's really clunky, you might as well bring a night gear. Pretty much. But that's, yeah, I should stop ranting. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Just give it a like if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Comment down below what you think about the mechs I recommended. What mechs do you think I missed out? I don't think I missed out anything, considering that I've tested a lot of mechs for brawling and skirmishing, and I pretty much know what's good and what should never touch brawling ever. And like, share this video to all your friends who like brawling and spread the gospel, because brawling's really fun. It's actually fairly relevant in this meta. So that is all. I shall just end the video here in an awkward manner once again and hit the 19-minute mark once. Yep, all raw and unedited. Oh yeah. I'll catch you all later. Bye bye.